Hey, good afternoon, my people. What's up? Hope and trust that all is going good. Today is what? Today is Wednesday, the fourth day of February 2024, and the time right now is 2 minutes after the midday hour, 2 minutes after 12 p.m. Well, this morning when I woke up and checked my phone, I wanted to see what my boss was talking about last night. But when I checked, I didn't see him, didn't see a live. Um, but I saw another live where two former members of the UPP or two former supporters of the UPP was on a particular show, and they were discussing Lovell's contribution to Dave Lesterpain program from last Monday, and they were looking at or speaking to what Lovell said in terms of a decision might be made to not go through convention in terms of to deal with leadership and so, based on the fact that there's a pending general elections. There was some discussion about that. That got me to thinking. So I went to Google and I could remember in my mind that Lovell had challenged Baldwin. Um, Well, before I go to that, let me just say I wanted to look at the convention history, if you want to call it that, of the UPP. So I went to Google. I remembered in my mind that Lovell had challenged Baldwin, but when I checked, Google's telling me that Lovell never challenged Baldwin. I said no. And that's why I say all the time on these videos that I live in Antigua. So I don't have to read a story and I live here. I'm on the ground, so I know what it is. And sometimes when it's just a story that's written, people are not really given the full feel as to what's happening. But anyway, I digressed a bit there. As I was saying, I remember that. So I asked a few people, and one of my friends in the UPP told me, yes, um, Baldwin Spencer became the leader of the UPP back in 1993. And it is strange. It is strange how history repeats itself. Because as I'm doing this now, my mind goes back. I think that there was some controversy back in 1993 now, if my memory serves me correct. Baldwin, whatever party Baldwin had represented before the amalgamation, um, Baldwin was the leader, was a successful labor relations man. But there was the argument back then that, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was Dr. Heath. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. There was a debate as to whether or not Dr. Heath should lead the party or Baldwin should lead the party. You see, we were back then into the same argument, who's bright for who's not bright. Anyway, I digressed again. But Baldwin, I'm told, led the party from its inception 1993. And in 2002, he was challenged by Lovell. And coming out of that convention was the infamous statement that Baldwin was or might be or intends to or is leading a tissue paper government in relation to going up against the Labour Party at the time. So that was in 2002. That's the first convention. Then Mr. Spencer stepped down as party leader, I'm told, in 2015. That is after the 2014 election when the Labour Party regained government. He stepped down in 2015, and Mr. Lovell became the leader in 2015, I'm told. Richard Lewis then challenged Harold Lovell for leadership in February of 2019. So that's going to be the second um, convention, 2019, and he lost to Lovell. And Lovell resigned as party leader in January of 2023. January 2023. Richard then challenged Pringle, or Pringle became the leader. He was interim, then he became the leader, the political leader after. They came to convention, and Pringle defeated Richard Lewis, or Richard Lewis was not successful in the convention of April 2024. April 2024. And we're now in 2026, where a decision is pending as to whether there'll be a convention for leadership, etc., etc. So between 1993 and the 21st of April 2024, the UPP would have had three conventions. Right? Three conventions. Yes, three conventions over a span of three conventions. Three conventions. First one being in 2002, right? 2002. The next one being in 2019. That's when Richard Lewis challenged Lovell. And then the next one would have been in 2024 when Richard Lewis challenged Pringle or vice versa. Right? All right. So that is the convention history from 20 from 1993. That is not totally 100% accurate. Why I say that? I learned that there was a either there was or convention was put aside leading into the 2004 elections. So a decision might have been made then not to go to convention because I think that's when the UPP won government, yeah? 2004 to 2014. Yes, that's correct. So those are the three dates there. So I said to myself, let me look at the history for the political party that these persons are now, these former UPP supporters are now members. So I went to Google and Google told me that the present leader of that political party, the Labour Party, the present leader, Gaston Brown, he became he became leader in 2012. I think it's November 2012. And between 2012 and today, uh, about 14 years after, I don't see no convention in relation to challenging for leadership, etc., etc., etc. I said to myself, something must be wrong with that because I know they're supposed to have conventions and blah 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 blah. So I don't know. So anyway, I went back up in the clouds and I came up on a interview or a news item, sorry, a news item that was done on Observer Radio on the 30th of April 2024. 30th of April 2024. And in that interview, or in that news clip, the insert that was used in the news clip, the present leader was heard, or I hear his voice where he's saying the Labour Party has an undisputed, the Labour Party has an undisputed leader, an undisputed, undefeated leader. There's no challenge and there's no vacancy. So those who wants to speak about some kind of convention to contest leadership, there is no such vacancy. They're just trying to stir up you know what. This was on the 30th of April 2024. Well, I said I still was not convinced that that was the case, so I called a comrade this morning and I inquired of the person, or inquired of him, what is happening? I was trying to do this thing with the convention. What's happening? He said, boss, you have convention leading up to an election. After the convention of 2012, when the leadership changed, we had we have convention leading up to a general elections where the candidates are ratified and that's it. So then I said, wait, y'all don't have conventions where the leader is, whether he's unopposed or what, that happens. Tell me, look, boss, the most may tell you again, leading up to the general election, the convention that they call the matter at hand is to ratify candidates. And I smiled to myself. I smiled to myself. And I said, wow. I said, wow, boy, you're really some manipulators out there. Not that I didn't know, but just another example again of it coming to the fore. You know. So it would appear to me, because if the Constitution says there ought to be a convention, then you have to have a convention. Um, don't tell me that in 14 years you can't have a convention and people accept you saying, the leader saying, well, there's no vacancy. Well, I might as well check out that section of the Constitution that speaks to convention. Might as well, because what use is it? But then again, as he said, there might be some people cooping leadership, so who knows? But I just got into that, having heard the discussion. The Bible really right when it says, boy, pick the beam out of your eyes before you go and pick the beam out of somebody else's eyes. The Bible, again, well, not that I don't know the Bible is right, just another event proving the Bible to be right again. Anyway, my people, have a good day. And, guard your mind against these manipulators. Because trust you me, they're just out there to fool some people. The simpletons, I call them. Those people who can't think for themselves and, work things through. If you can assist somebody in not to be fooled by these people, my friend, do your best. Until we come together again, bless up yourself.